There is only one perfect solution, but there are clues that will try to trick our team.
Hello there everyone, my name is Crazy Caleb and welcome to Triple Vision. So this is the way the module looks. It's one of the Pantheon mission modules that was released after one of the community members solved one of these missions. In this case, in honor of him solving it, Dicey has been added to this actual module. His icon himself is down here. That's what this represents. And that's because he was the first person to actually solve this one. I believe he's actually the only person to solve the Pantheon of Color, or either the Pantheon of Color or Logic. I forget which one this is. But either way, that's what this is referencing, and this is where this is from. So this module is going to be an 8x8 grid of red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, yellow, white, black color panels. This image is actually an XOR of three of the images below. And to solve the module, we need to correctly identify all three images. So this is what we're looking at here, and this is what all these icons represent. So let's get right into this. To XOR two images, simply XOR the color channel values of each pixel on the first image with the pixel at the same position on the second image. So for example, A1 on the image is red, which in this case, it gives it to you in a binary form. If you know how essentially the red, green, blue table works, and how, just as a fair warning, before those of you are getting into the module here, I would advise knowing how red, green, blue tables work. For example, if we take a look at Simon Sen's, make sure we don't use the optimized here. The normal manual itself, as you can see, we have a red, green, blue table here. The way that XOR works is if, for example, you say, so for example, say if we had red and yellow, and we were trying to XOR these two colors, what we would get here is the result is green. The way that this works here is essentially, if we take a look, yellow is made up of red-green itself. So red-green, and XOR works as you need to have exactly one in the actual color. In this case, red appears twice, and that's not going to work for us. We actually are just going to get rid of the red. Green only appears once, so in this case, our result is going to be green. Same thing can be said about the other colors. If we have, for example, white, which in this case is made up of red, green, blue, XOR, for example, say cyan, in this case made up of green, blue, we obviously are going to get an answer of red, because red is the only one that appears once here. In this case, red right there. And then, in cases where it's XOR blue, for example, red XOR blue, we're going to combine these two together, and in this case, we're going to get magenta as a final answer. That's the way that works. I would advise you guys know how that works at this point. If not, obviously, learn some other modules that have to do with the additive color mixing. Otherwise, let's continue on with this tutorial. So, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find three individual images here on this actual 8x8 grid that are going to be part of our solution here. And one of the things that I can immediately recognize here is we have, for example, what might be like a T-shirt actually down here in the way that this outline works. And I am inclined to believe that we're looking at the T-shirt image here. I can definitely see this, and this would make sense. So sometimes you can figure out images actually really quickly with this mod, just kind of based off of general outlines. And I do believe that this is what we're looking at here, with this first one here. Now what we need to do is we need to find two more images. So let's take a look and let's see what's actually happening here. And one thing that we want to realize here is that there is cyan at the top, which is actually going to be a bit interesting, which makes me believe that we're potentially looking at this image here. So let's also take a look for any other cyans, and it does not appear to have much else. Now, one thing that we can determine is that this is definitely not this one because of the fact that the outer edge here is all black. Usually when the outer edge is black, for example, there generally is not going to be anything happening there. So we can already eliminate quite a few options with that. So for example, these full image ones where there would be, for example, whites on the outer edge here or cyan on the outer edge, those can generally be crossed off if there just isn't anything filled in on the edges of the module here. So in this case, the top does have this cyan here, and I do believe that these are going to work out for us. And if we take a look, actually, one of the things that we can do here is we can actually line up these two cyans. In this case, the cyan would be here and here, for example, and the blues that would be here as well in the T-shirt. So in this case, we have cyan XOR blue, and in this case, cyan is made up of green blue. So in this case, green blue XOR blue is going to return a green, and in this case, both of these tiles actually do return as green, and the same thing with a lot of these tiles that are going to be present here. So in this case, this is going to be big for us. This actually does help us determine that this is indeed our second image that we're looking at here. This is actually quite an easy find. Now we need to figure out the third image, and this is where things get a little bit interesting. One of the things that I can immediately realize here is that over on the side, this magenta, little stretch does not appear in the blue t-shirt. So we need to figure out how we get to magenta from this sort of cyan point over here. In this case, this little cube. And also, one of the ways that you can also tell this is actually the cyan cube is actually like specifically in this area. As you can see, there's like it doesn't go beyond this little 6x6 grid, 6x6 in this case, this little 6x6 corner. So that definitely helps us narrow that thing down. Now, we also need to recognize that we do go into sort of this little divot here. In this case, the white goes down a little bit. That could be helpful for us. So let's see if anything behaves like that, because the 6x6 grid of cyan and a little bit of white there does not touch this bottom bit right here. So that could be potentially helpful for us. So let's figure this out. And what actually would make this white? What actually would make blue, in this case, white? The blue in this case changed to white. Well, if we take a look here, we want this to turn out to be white. So white equals blue, X or something. White is made up of red, green, and blue. So we need to add a red-green. So we need a yellow in this. Now, another thing that I'm immediately realizing here is that the cyan and yellow, if we were to do cyan and yellow together, cyan XOR yellow, in this case if we do green-blue and red-green, we get a red-blue from this, which returns as a magenta. And immediately what I'm thinking here is I'm thinking it's this image right here. Because of the fact that if we take a look here, it's sort of producing the same outline. We have a yellow over here on the far right. We've got these three magentas where the cyan matches up. We've got the outline of the white here. In this case, that does make sense to what we were looking at beforehand. So I believe we have found our three images, and this makes sense. And generally, you can kind of eyeball it. You don't even really need to do the whole XORing of this entire thing. You just need to find the three images that are outlined here. And in this case, we actually had a really nice and easy example to do here. But that's kind of what you want to do, is you kind of want to find outlines that help you. Kind of want to use the corners in this case. And in this case, we were able to figure out that just based off of this pattern alone, and since this is a sea of blue in the t-shirt, we were able to figure out where that was coming from. So now with this in mind, what we want to do here is once all three images have been identified, we're going to take each image's position in reading order in the chart below, add them together, and count that many cells on the module in reading order, wrapping around if necessary. So this is these are all going to be 8 rows, rows of 8. So we've got 8, 16. This is going to be 17 for our first one. Then we have 24, 8, 16, 24, 32. This is going to be 40, 39, 38, 38 for our next one. So from 40 then, 48, 49 for this one. Okay, so now we're going to add these guys together, popping out a handy-dandy calculator. We've got 17 plus 38 plus 49. And now what we're going to do is, one important thing is that we want to modulo this by 64. 8 times 8 is 64, so we're going to modulo this by 64, as we wrap around if necessary. Plus 63, excuse me, minus 64. And in this case, we get the total of 40. And it says obviously wrapping around if necessary. So we're going to be pressing the button in the 40th position. So in this case, top left, it does represent 1, by the way. Very important to note that down. So we're going to go counting 40. So 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. We should be able to press this yellow. And just like that is a solved module. And as you can see, it cycles through the 3 images that we just had there, as well as returning to the initial state. So that just confirms our answer. So let's take a look at one more example. This module is a very clever concept. I like the idea of it a lot. And it actually is quite easy to do. It's just sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, especially with examples like, for example, the clock, rain cloud, stuff that kind of takes up the entire 8x8 grid can be a bit tricky to sort of XOR, but there generally should be an outline for how some of these are chosen. So keep that in mind, and you should have no trouble with this at all. So let's get right into another example here. And we'll do this a little bit faster. Hopefully we can get some nice and easy ones here. Okay.
There is only one perfect
All right, this should be
solution,
interesting.
but there are clues that will try to trick our team.
All right, so we got a sea of blue. We got a bit of yellow at the top. This is definitely going to be something weird. Okay, let's look for white. White at the bottom is interesting. And I kind of have an idea of what I might be looking at here, or maybe I don't. I probably don't. Okay. Wow, this is definitely something here. Maybe the pinwheel does make sense. There's a lot of blue. Could be the fish? No, it can't be the fish. Could be the umbrella, perchance? Might be a good starting point. I wouldn't complain. Yeah, that would be a nice starting point, actually. But what makes me concerned is these blues down here. Maybe it's a mixture of cyan, who knows. But also these blacks as well. This is quite interesting. There might be two blues on top of each other, who knows. This one certainly got my attention. But it's a lot of looking around. This is essentially what we're going to be working with here. There really is not much else to say about it, other than just kind of looking. So the yellow getting to the top is a bit interesting. Also a very particular pattern, too. Very specific yellows. I'm kind of leaning towards it actually not being the umbrella, to be completely honest. Also the whites on the border, on this border down here, is a bit weird. But what's making me lean towards the umbrella is because of the fact that this tile right here is the one that's the odd one out here. It doesn't make sense for this one to just be here and not exist. Like, the yellow is at that specific spot on the bottom row. I'm kind of leaning towards the umbrella being there. That would make sense. Now, what we can do here is we can think about what exactly made it blue. So in this case, we can do red and green. So red and green make yellow, and we need to XOR it into a blue. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to do white. This is essentially going to flip the entire thing. So this would change as to blue. So we potentially can say that there is safely a white down here. Now this might be the entire row of white down to the bottom here. The question is, what specific image are we looking at here? And it's proving to be quite difficult to find. And I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, it might be the beaker. It might be the beaker here. Yes, I could see the beaker here because we have these whites coming up here, this white down at the bottom row, and it sort of goes diagonally. We also have greens in here as well. This does indeed make sense. And now, what we want to do here is, with these two images in mind, let's try and figure out exactly what we need to do to get our final example, to get our final picture here, rather. So we know for a fact that there's going to be yellow appearing at the top, and this does actually make sense to what we're looking for here. But one thing that concerns me is there should be more yellows here, in this case where the beaker is going up, but they're blue for some reason. So that's a bit interesting, which makes me believe that it's likely a flip again. So with the beaker and the blue, so in this case, red, green, blue, XOR blue makes it yellow. In this case, that's what appears up on the top here. It would normally appear here and here, but something about this spot makes it yellow. It would only be normally blue here, but not here for some reason. And same thing with here. This does not make sense. These three spots, I'm quite surprised, are not yellow, so this likely means that something's interfering with it. What makes these go back to blue? Well, if we were to go back to a white, for example, so if we were to go blue, if we were to go, for example, yellow, XOR white, it would take us back to blue. So there likely is another yellow that is actually appearing in the top here. That's actually messing with this. So the question is, what exactly is it? I don't think it's the lock. That doesn't make sense. And also, one other thing that we need to point out is the fact that it's affecting the, this would be normally where the greens are. Ooh, hold on. Okay, so something is being white here because it's changing it back to green in this case. It's changing these back to green. The yellow would normally affect these positions, which is not something I'm getting here. This is a really interesting example, definitely. So yeah, let's take a look around. There's yellows popping up here, and that's actually going to be probably a helpful indicator for us. That actually might help us. We need to find yellow over here, as well as appearing up in the top, for example. It's not the sun, I don't think. It might be the ring, actually. But the problem is that the ring is too far to the left. That's what's concerning here, and it's also too far up. I don't think it's that. It's definitely not that. And I don't think it's anything affecting the bottom either. That's going to be a bit helpful. This is a bit interesting, certainly. It's not the key. I don't think it's the key. What is it? Yeah, because this should be white right here. This should be black, but they're not. So it is going to likely be, it's got to be, so this has to be yellow, yellow. This one has to be, for it to be white switching to, for it to be white switching to yellow, it needs to be a blue. So white, so yellow, yellow, and there needs to be a blue there. Let's try and find that. Oh, wait, it might be this. Yeah, it's going to be that, I think. Yep. So, if we take a look here, it does not affect the bottom row, which is exactly what we wanted. It does affect these spots. In this case, we wanted to check if it was going to be here. In this case, wait a minute, hold on. No, that does make sense. It is these spots that are being affected. That's right. Yeah, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be affected. That should be blue. That's exactly what it's supposed to be. This is not making... Hold on. In a way that makes sense, though, because it's actually making these blues into blacks. That's the one case that actually makes sense about this, though. And it cancels out. It cancels out the whole, yellow, I think. It would make it white. It's white and green makes... Hold on. What am I missing here? It might not be the beaker for all I know. That might be what I'm looking at that's wrong. That actually might be what I'm wrong here about. It's got to be something similar to that, but I don't know what exactly yet. This one's interesting. And I think I'm on the right track, but I'm not sure exactly. It's just very hard to determine that. I'm convinced it's the beaker, though, because of the fact that it's covering up the bottom row, and then it's going up, and then it's going diagonal. That has to make sense. Maybe I'm overthinking this. Hold on. Maybe I'm overthinking this. I think it has to be these. There's no way it can't be. Yeah, I may be overthinking this. Bam, 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 bam. Yeah, because the blue and the yellow help cancel it out. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gets up there, deals with those guys. Yes, that actually makes sense. Okay, I'm completely overthinking this. Yeah, okay. So it is these 3 images that we have here. I don't know why I was thinking so hard on that. In this case, we have 5, 8, 16, 15, 14, 14, and then this one's a big one. So 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, 72, 80, 88, 87. Okay, now let's sum these guys up. Sorry for taking so long on this. 5 plus 14. But yeah, it's a lot of looking around. It's a lot of getting an idea of what you're looking at here. It can be very tricky. Modulo looks up to 64. It says 42. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 41, 42. This should be the cell that we need to click. And just like that, is indeed a solved module. This gives us, wait a minute, that? Ooh, okay, I believe that's a bug. That should be a green. I will report that. But as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.